Mr. and Ms. Murray, you'll stand to receive the verdict of the jury. Ms. Farmer, as to defendant Karen W. Murray in case number 47002A, in count 1 for the offense of first-degree murder in the commission of a felony, which is aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult, how did you find the defendant Karen Murray guilty or not guilty? No, you can just say if you found her guilty or not guilty.
Guilty.
Of the indicted offense. All right. As to Mr. Michael Murray, in case number 47002B, did you find the defendant guilty or not guilty of first-degree murder during the commission of a felony, aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult?
Guilty, Your Honor.
All right. As to count 1 for Ms. Karen Murray, so say you all. All jurors agree on the verdict. All have nodded in assent. As to Mr. Michael Murray in count 1, so say you all as to the announced verdict. All jurors nod in assent. All right. Ms. Farmer, as foreperson of the jury, in count 2 for Karen Murray, did the jury find the defendant guilty or not guilty of aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult with injury?
Guilty.
And as to count 2 for Michael Murray, did the jury find the defendant guilty or not guilty of aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult with injury?
Guilty.
As to Karen Murray, with that verdict announced, so say you all. All jurors nod in assent. And as to defendant Michael Murray, so say you all. All jurors nod in assent. As to count 3 for defendant Karen Murray in case number 47002A, to the offense of aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult with physical harm, did the jury find the defendant guilty or not guilty of that indicted offense?
Guilty.
And as to count 3, defendant Michael Murray, how did the jury find the defendant guilty or not guilty of aggravated neglect of a vulnerable adult with physical harm?
Guilty.
As to defendant Karen Murray, to the announced verdict, so say you all. All jurors nod in agreement. Yes, Ms. Beasley? Yes. And as to defendant Michael Murray, how do all defendants nod in assent or disagreement? All jurors agree. All right. All jurors have nodded in assent. All right. If you'll be seated. Thank you. You may be seated, Mr. and Ms. Murray. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of myself, the court staff, and the court clerk's office, Ms. Downs and her staff, as well as the attorneys involved, for sacrificing the week to do your civic duty and sit as a juror in this case. I know it's been a difficult and trying case, and I will remind you that you do not have to discuss your verdict with anyone. If you do elect to discuss your verdict with anyone, I would ask you to be respectful and mindful of your other jurors' thoughts and the conduct of any juror during the deliberation who may not wish their comments or decisions discussed by any other juror. Discretion is the better part of valor in these types of things. If you wish to talk to any of the attorneys, sometimes attorneys will call jurors and say, I'd like some guidance on what we could have done differently, what you found important, what you found not so important or significant, and you are the best judges to give them that kind of information, okay? And it's extremely helpful as far as your commentary if any of the attorneys were to call you, okay? I would like to speak with you just briefly before you're excused for the afternoon. I am going to release all of you for future jury service this term. This will be the only trial you will have to sit on. You will not have to call back in for any other trial. Now, in the future, you may get one of those brown cards that says you've been summoned for jury service again, but you should be clear for, what is it, Tammy, 2 years? 2 years. You should be clear for 2 years. I've spoken with the other judges who may have trials between now and when your jury service would end in early September, and we all feel secure that we have enough jurors, and this has taken enough pound of flesh, so to speak, from your day-to-day lives and for this type of difficult case. So I appreciate the emotional investment, the investment of your time, and the consideration and attention that you gave to this case. I cannot thank you enough. I'm going to speak with you briefly. I'll be back there. If you'll wait in the jury room just a moment, I'm going to address the attorneys, and I'll be right there. It won't take me just a couple of minutes. If you'll